So, a lot of people have been encouraging me to talk about this really weird, obscure health issue that I have for a variety of reasons, I'm sure. And I've been really hesitant to talk about it. One, because it's very personal and it's very awkward to talk about it. And also because I guess years of working in politics, you tend to not want to make yourself vulnerable on purpose. um, but I think there's a lot of value to talking about it because maybe if you have something similar or something else that's obscure and it gives you a little bit of hope, maybe some ways to look at things, then that's valuable. So, my name is Katherine Schoonover. I have something called mast cell activation syndrome and histamine intolerance, and clearly some weird oxalate problem. I don't know exactly what you would call that, but so I have no plan for how to talk about this. I'm not going to edit this. I'm just going to talk about it to the degree that I can, and then maybe do more later if I feel like it's valuable. Um, so I'm sorry. I'm just going to kind of ramble because I don't really know where to start. So basically, um, I call it my pretend allergies because there's no really good way to discuss it with anybody, even with most doctors, because most people don't even know what it means. They don't know anything about it. My doctor certainly did not, and my allergist did not, and nobody really did. Um, so I say I call it my pretend allergies because even though I'm technically allergic to nothing, the result is the same. So my body treats things like it's poison and tries to get rid of it as quickly as it possibly can in all the ways that it can. Um, Typically speaking, I'm just going to use this word once because I hate this word. Typically speaking, the kind of response that I would have to whatever it is that was bothering me would be um, diarrhea um, and vomiting, um, weird nerve pains, um, crazy heart palpitations. I have a little EKG thing that tells me I'm having tachycardia, and my heart's literally going so fast. And then I might have a panic attack on top of it because you think you're dying. So you might be, I don't know. But when you think you're dying, then of course you panic about that. And I'm not a panicky person as a rule. So if I'm panicking, it's not normal. um, so we don't really know exactly what causes it, but it was probably stress that set it off, and stress seems to exacerbate it. But it doesn't seem to be something that goes away completely, and it's just weird. I don't know how to describe it. So I said we don't really know what causes it, but it's certainly exacerbated by stress. I so I'm typically a pretty skinny person. I don't really put on a lot of weight as a rule, and all of a sudden I was putting on a lot of weight, and it didn't make any sense. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't eating weird food. I was getting exercise, and it wasn't. It shouldn't have been a problem. And so I usually have obscure things that go wrong with me. There's nothing normal that happens. Um, so I was trying to figure out what's going on, and you do some looking online so you can kind of ask your doctors the right questions. And I was thinking, okay, maybe it's some sort of thyroid problem. And I went to my doctor, and apparently there are two thyroid tests. There's the regular thyroid test that everybody does, and it's wildly inaccurate. And then there's the special fancy thyroid test that is more likely to give you an accurate answer. And I was trying to get them to clarify which test are you doing, because I just want to be sure that we were doing the best we could to figure out what it was. And they claimed that they were doing the most accurate test. I was very the way they were phrasing it made me think like they weren't really doing the one I wanted, but whatever. And they said that I didn't have a thyroid problem, but I was looking up, okay, well, what would I do anyway? So let's assume that they're wrong because they're usually wrong when it has to do with B. So let's just, what would I do? And I looked at the kind of a diet that you would eat for hypothyroidism, and it was healthy foods. It was no big deal. So, okay, eat a lot of salmon, a lot of seaweed, and, all wonderful, healthy foods in theory for everybody but me. Um, and it wasn't just not getting better, it was getting worse. And so, how can you be eating a healthy diet, getting plenty of exercise, and you're putting on weight. It doesn't make any sense. And then I started losing foods because this was before this. I didn't seem to be responding to food and getting sick with it. This was just, I was just eating regular food and it shouldn't have been a problem. And anyway, so, but I say all of a sudden I started losing foods. And when I say that, I would have something that I'd always had. Like I'd have a salad, a nice healthy salad, not one of those ones that's full of gunk. Every ingredient under the sun, it's worse for you than junk food. It was a healthy salad. And I would just get violently ill. I'd be in the bathroom for hours. I ate a salad. I was at the office, and I don't know how many hours I was in and out of that bathroom, but I couldn't go anywhere. I just had to wait it out. And, it was all that and that. Your body's just trying to rid yourself of the poison you've just ingested as quickly as it can. And, but I was just kind of running out of things that I could eat. And I was down to a handful of things. And even those things didn't seem to be safe anymore. And meanwhile, I was very fortunate that my sister-in-law was having her own health issue, and she was basically becoming a nutritionist to solve her own problem. And she had dealt with this one holistic medicine group and was recommending that I go there. And I walked in the door. Oh, I should back up and say, I had gone to my regular doctor. And she, I think, just thought I was stressed. And then I had some weird allergy. And so she sent me to an allergist. And I go to the allergist, and the allergist thought that I wasn't allergic to anything, but maybe I might have a little shellfish allergy, but she didn't even think I was allergic to dogs or cats or anything, like nothing. And she also clearly did not look at my medical records because it said that I couldn't tolerate Zyrtec, that I was allergic to Zyrtec. And sorry, Zyrtec. But she recommended that I just take Zyrtec forever. I'm like, what? I was trying to well, why don't we figure out what's wrong? Why would I just simply take an allergy medicine, some kind of antihistamine for the rest of my life? By the way, one I'm allergic to, but whatever. Why would I just do that? And why couldn't I figure out what the problem was and then fix that? And she said, well, I can't remember if it was 5 or 10%. Just 5 or 10% of the population has this problem that we don't really understand, and we just give them, antihistamines forever. Crazy. It was nuts. It was absolutely ridiculous. Just ridiculous. I understand if you say, well, you don't know what's wrong. I get that. But there should be some sort of, well, maybe we try to figure it out. There should be some attempt, not just, let's just medicate you for the rest of your life with something you can't tolerate, by the way, and that should just be fine. So, anyway, so then I went to my sister-in-law's doctor, and they ran all kinds of blood tests. They do so many more blood tests at holistic places than they do with a regular doctor. And they're looking at more factors, and they're also looking at more subtleties. So your doctor might ignore some level of problem that you have, but the holistic people won't. But I walked in the door, and they took one look at me. And they were asking what was wrong, but they took one look at me, and they were saying they thought they already knew what the problem was. And then I described it, and as a base, they actually even thought they knew what the problem was. So I described what was going on, and they told me they thought it was probably mast cell, but they didn't know. And I didn't really know what that meant. And nor does anybody else, except holistic people, apparently. So we ran a bunch of tests, so many tests, and all these very uncomfortable tests that are difficult to do. You got to collect all kinds of information in ways you won't expect. And so we ran all of these crazy tests, and confirmed, I had mast cell activation syndrome and histamine intolerance, and I don't think they came across anything else. But as I started to look into what all that meant, and I, by the way, highly recommend the website Mast Cell 360 as a great place to start. If you have a problem like this, just kind of get you going, because everybody's so different. You can't just follow one plan. Everybody has to figure their plan out, but it gives you a good starting point, and I'll explain more, and you'll understand a little better in a minute. So I had a list of things that I couldn't tolerate, and I gave it to their nutritionist person, who then gave me a diet, which is really funny. I couldn't actually eat everything on her list, but whatever. It gave me a starting point. And it kind of if you've ever had a dog, if your dog has ever had upset stomach, what you give them is like ground beef, chicken, rice. Very white rice, by the way. Very simplistic things. Um, and if you look at the things that you shouldn't eat if you have mast cell activation syndrome or histamine intolerance, it's like everything I was eating. All the things that are supposed to be so healthy for you. Basically, plant life was my enemy. Not just plant life, but primarily plant life. So, you know, all that wonderful, what's it called? Seaweed and all these things were just poison, right? Um, oh my gosh, asparagus, you know, the worst things you can have. And coffee, I love coffee. And so and all the things I've been doing to make myself healthy had been very damaging. And fish, oh, I forgot fish. Um, if I want to eat fish, apparently I have to eat it like straight off the boat. It has to be frozen immediately. If it's not eaten straight out of the water, you have to freeze it immediately, and then even then it's risky. So it's all very high in histamines. And by the way, the way they describe histamines, so you can kind of understand a little what's happening, is that you should think of yourself as having a bucket. And everybody has a bucket, and you can fill with histamines, and all foods have histamines. And certain foods have more histamines than others. Certain foods are histamine liberators, and it creates them basically. And then and then if you have mast cell, your bucket is smaller and already more full. And then all these various things are just way too much for you. So, so all the things I've been doing to make myself healthy were making me so much worse. And so I started doing that little diet thing, and I should also add that so many other things besides just food are problems. So the things you wouldn't even think of, you know, the air freshener in the bathroom somewhere, the cleaning supplies you're using, even some of the all natural things. I know, for example, I had this great citrus cleaner, and it burned my hands. All these different things that you don't even think of. If you treat your grass with certain kinds of pesticides, or even I don't know, whatever people are putting on there to make stuff grow, and stop weeds and whatever it is, like that can be a big problem for you. I remember my mother wanted me to come and look at something in the yard, and I was wearing flip-flops, and I stepped into that grass. It had just been treated with something there was a fertilizer, and it also had some kind of pesticide in there. I don't know which thing was a problem, probably both. And within moments, I felt like I was going to have some kind of, I don't know, seizure or something. My body was like going into shock, and I had to quickly get away from there and like go take a shower. I was really sick. It was not great. But anyway, so just all these crazy things are a problem. And you know, I was allergic to my office. I was allergic to my house. I was allergic to everything, just everything. You go into a restaurant and somebody's been smoking, and you can have this very light smell of it in the air, and 15 minutes before you can be violently ill and you have to escape. You know, marijuana smoking, all these idiots smoking everywhere drives me insane. I can't deal with it. I will be violently ill. I won't bore you with that story now, but anyway, so you know, I was running all these foods, finally gotten a diagnosis. Even the diagnosis doesn't completely help you, because you still have to figure out what your safe foods are. And so most of my safe foods were things like chicken breast, white rice. Early on, I could do beef. Ground beef is terrible, because it's not, there's nothing wrong with it, but I mean, like, it's bad for me. It's because it's high in histamines. And I could do oatmeal, certain kinds. Like, it had to be gluten-free. It's not so much it's the gluten per se, it's that there's so many poisons involved in all of these things. And, you know, the gluten-free stuff is just less of a problem. And so let's see, rice, chicken. For some reason I can eat green beans, and I don't know why. You're not supposed to be able to eat green beans, but I can eat green beans, so that was fine. Certain green beans, I could eat a certain brand of frozen cherry, a certain brand of frozen peaches. Don't understand any of it. If I have a different brand, I can't do it. It doesn't make any sense. It's just certain things are worse. And foods that are fine, if they become leftovers, then the longer something is out, the more histamines that it has. So if you had a safe food today and you put it in the refrigerator and you didn't freeze it, it would increase in histamines overnight, and then when you try to eat it later, it'd be so high in histamines you'd get sick. So that's not great. So you had to be really careful about what you did. And I think this is one of the biggest problems for people who have it, other than figuring out what your safe foods are, because nobody's the same, is, how do you figure out how you're going to eat? You just wouldn't think that would be a problem, but it is. So I think a lot of people struggled with that. I think this is sort of the most important thing I would say to people who are struggling with something like this, other than you're not crazy. Something is happening and they just don't know because they don't know. But you have to have a plan, and you cannot have the expectation that you're going to do what everybody else is doing. It's not like there's a pill you can take and then all of a sudden you can eat normal foods. It's not like that. You have to figure out how you're going to get your body to no longer be inflamed. So if you've gotten to this point where you're having this level of problem, your body is so inflamed that everything is bothering it, even your safe foods. So you have to let your body calm down. It takes a long time for that to happen. And not every food that you react to is going to be something you're going to recognize quickly. And you're going to feel nuts. It took 4 hours before I would have a reaction. I was so ill, and it took a long time to figure out that even one of these things on my supposed safe food list was a huge problem for me. And sorry, and I normally can't drink, but what have you today? Anyway, you should not have an expectation that you're going to just figure out how you're going to eat normal people food. You need to know that you're going to eat different things and do it in a different way, and you need to have a plan. And it'll be quite easy as long as you have access to the things that you need. So I know there was a lot of panic from a lot of people online in these various groups that I like, your Facebook support groups and things like that, because it's really obscure and we don't know what to do. We're always asking each other advice. And the best thing that I could do, because I would sometimes be fine with something and then it would fall apart later, I would cook all of my food myself, all the things that I could do safely. I would freeze it in those little food saver things that suck all the air out. And that way, if I lost a food, it wouldn't contaminate the rest of my food. And so for breakfast, I would have this gluten-free oatmeal, just oats, maple syrup in it, one particular almond milk is the only kind of almond milk I could have. Other people seem to be doing other things, but it was just the Whole Foods 360 unsweetened, whatever it is, one. So it was just literally these gluten-free oats, the almond milk, and maple syrup. Cook it, microwave, done. And I would switch that every other day, and then I'd have a rice pudding that was literally this particular rice, same almond milk, maple syrup, a little bit of vanilla. And early on, vanilla is really rough on me because there's alcohol in it. Couldn't tolerate it. And you're supposed to cut out alcohol. The only alcohol I did not cut out was communion. I refused to not have communion, and that was tough. I had to drink a lot of water, but I wouldn't give that up. Anyway, so then at lunch I would have, hilariously, chicken drumsticks, and I cooked them in a way that I could get the bones to be soft enough that you can, this sounds so bad, you can kind of gnaw on the ends, because you need to get calcium. You run out of nutrients, so you're eating such ridiculous stuff, you just need to have more nutrients. And anyway, so I could kind of get the ends off and get some of the stuff from inside the bones out, and that was very helpful. And I have that, and mashed potato. It was literally just potatoes. There was nothing in it, just potatoes. It's mushed up. And green beans. Don't understand why. Whatever. And a little bit of salt. And early on, the salt I couldn't tolerate very well either. And the chicken drumsticks actually were a little bit of a problem, because early on there was more oil in there than just chicken breast, and that seemed to be a problem too. But it got better. And I was just starving, so I had 3 drumsticks. It looked like I was having Thanksgiving dinner every day. That's what we were calling it. It was really funny. So I had 3 chicken drumsticks, a huge amount of potato, it was a huge meal, green beans, and Oh, and sorry, and then um, I can't remember what I think I was having. I think I was having some of the frozen cherries middle of the day because I did better with histamines earlier on, and I would just run out at the end of the day. And then for dinner, I would have chicken breast that I had chopped up into little chunks, and white rice, and um, either a little bit more green bean, or I had to get a very specific kind of lettuce. Is that hydroponic stuff that just grows. And the thing is, as soon as the leaf disconnects from the little base, the histamines increase. So I would literally pull off, and this is organic one, no pesticides and stuff. So I'd literally pull off like a leaf and eat that. And I couldn't. I think I had to work up to having 2 or 3 pieces. Like this is tiny in the first place, so it was just really high histamines. Um, and then I have frozen cherries, and yeah, and so I just each thing in the microwave. I put the green beans, separately in. Then I put the meat and the carb there together, and then after that I would put in the frozen fruit and um, so I eat all these separately, and that was it. And then if I got really hungry at night for whatever reason, because I was starving, I was eating so much food, but I was still starving. And then I would have more oatmeal if I got hungry. I was always safe. And I couldn't really do a lot of exercising. They caught because exercising creates histamines too. All these things you just don't expect. And so the only exercising I did was like a very light walk in the morning. I walked around the office like a couple of times. This building, it was just a block, 2 maybe 3 times, and that was it. And I was dropping weight so fast because my body was starting to calm down, and but eating quantities of food, but it wasn't clearly it wasn't a problem. So I was just doing this very mild diet, and I did this for about a year and a half. And I should say, meanwhile, this is the really exciting part. So I'd kind of gotten the food under control in that way, but at the same time, I was having other problems. So, if I touched a dog, my skin, and I got a little saliva or something on there, my skin would burn, and just whatever was in the air. And I love dogs, obsessed with dogs. And it was just so bad. I couldn't be near it. I couldn't tolerate it. And so I couldn't be around dogs. And obviously no cats either. They're even worse. But so it made almost everybody I knew's house something I couldn't be in for more than a few minutes. And then, other buildings, like if they were doing construction in my office, I'd have to just escape and go and work out of my car on my cell phone. Or I had another office across the street that I rented for me for my own business because I started this makeup business. And, I'd go over there and do something from there if I couldn't be in the other office because orders in the air. And thank goodness that office had a shower in it because I think it'd be in the air, it'd be on my skin, and it would just make it worse and worse and worse. And so I had to wash it off, whatever it was that had, gotten on me. So, I say that's actually one of the best things to do. If you're having a histamine flare up, obviously you're going to go to the bathroom, do all the things that you have to do. But then I would say take a shower and wash from head to toe and whatever safe products you can use. And I never lost my shampoo and conditioner, thank goodness, but I wasn't using anything super problematic in the first place. I was using the Alba dry damaged shampoo and conditioner, but I had to switch out my soaps. I could only use Kiss My Face plain olive oil soap at its worst. And then when it was a little bit better, I could do in the Yardley's English Lavender. And then when I got much better, I could do Dove. So I do different things for different, like my face, I still use the Yardley, and then for the rest I use Dove, because I can now. So yeah, so things in the air are a problem. All these just ridiculous things, and so you gotta go through all your cleaning supplies. You've got everybody who family members or friends, if you're going in their house, they have to be careful what they're doing too. If somebody hugs you and they are using a a laundry detergent that you can't tolerate, you might feel it and have to go wash your hand. I lost all perfumes and stuff. I couldn't wear makeup. And that was, I think, one of the most demoralizing things. And that actually happened before I even knew what this was, because I kept having all these various things about me that were inflamed. Carpal tunnel, that was separate, but I'm sure it was exacerbated by things. I was having something called blepharitis, which basically means that your eyes are getting inflamed and nobody really knew why. So I was doing all these things to, minimize that. I literally couldn't wear makeup. It was so horrible. And it's one of my favorite things. And so if you don't wear a lot, if your skin's breaking out, you can't do anything about it. You just have to be out there for all the world to see. I couldn't use any of my face creams or anything like that. I think I had gotten down to, at the worst, I literally just took glycerin and water and put it in a little bottle and shook it up. And that was all I could do for a moisturizer for the longest time. And then I worked up to Vaseline. And it's funny, it's when I was younger, I couldn't do Vaseline. Saved my life, it would make my skin break out. And now it's fine. I have no problem with it. But I'm older, so maybe that's it. But I don't use other things. I used to use all these fancy products and so forth, and I just don't. I don't even have the nerve to try any of the others anymore. And still sometimes some makeup bothers me. So I don't know if some of it's makeup sometimes, and some of it's the removers and all the things. Like, it's a whole crazy thing. But I would say if you ever have a problem, you can use Vaseline to get makeup off, FYI, and that's pretty much okay. But you didn't, you got to get that off. And then, so when you take a shower, you can't use water that's too hot or too cold. I think, periodically I thought of, doing some of this, like Joe Rogan talks about, and as many other people do, those cold plunges. And I've been so much better recently. I'm like, I should try that, see how that goes. That was terrible. Great for other people, not for me. I did it, and I felt like I was having a heart attack. My heart was going crazy. For just hours and hours and hours throughout that whole day, because I did it in the morning. I went to the gym, and then I took that regular shower, and then I did a cold, and it was bad. It was so bad. Don't do it. I'm guessing that's probably the same thing with sauna. But anyway, so you've got to clear your house of cleaning supply products, and nobody can do any poisons anywhere of any kind. It just messes everything up. And to make matters worse, so right around the time I had just been diagnosed, I think that's around the time, there was a problem in the house, and I think it was around that. There's a problem in the house, and we had to do water mitigation. And these fools, still mad, it's ridiculous, brought in dirty equipment from some other job, and it was spraying. I guess it was a dehumidifier things. It was spraying. You could see in the air. You could see particles. It was like a foggy house. They were spraying some kind of dust. I think it was probably drywall dust, and I also, based on what was the behavior and things, I think it was also a little bit of insulation. It's madness. It was madness. I mean, you could literally see these piles of dust, and one was going straight into my bedroom, and so the bedroom was facing this way, and just right across the hall was the bathroom door, and it was spraying so right in my bedroom, and then also the other way into the bathroom, so you could see the piles of this dust on the floor. And I walked into the house, and I just hit with just burning dust, and it was just terrible, and I couldn't go in. I had to walk right back out again, and I had to figure out where I was going to sleep. And I think it was, I think I tried to go to my brother's house, and I couldn't tell her because he had a dog, and my cousin had a dog too. Like, I knew that was out, and my uncle had a dog, it had a cat, a dog and a cat, and all these things. So I'm like, okay, I guess I have no choice. I gotta go to a hotel. I will figure this out tomorrow. And I went to a hotel, and I got hives. I was just sitting there. I don't know if you realize how many pesticides are in hotels, but even a nicer hotel, they're still using pesticides, and they've got maybe air fresheners in the air, and they have all these. And really bad hotels sometimes have little poison packages in their pillows. I don't know. I didn't come across that. But anyway, so I was trying hotels, trying to figure out where I could go, and I was getting hives from the hotel that I think the last one I tried, or maybe it was from the food. I have no idea. I still don't know what the issue is, but I had to give up, and I just slept in my car that night because it was something like 1 in the morning at that point, and I was like, there's nowhere left to go. Because it wasn't like I couldn't go to a hotel. I just couldn't tolerate it. So I couldn't tolerate any of the buildings. I couldn't tolerate anything. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. It was the weather was okay, so I was okay in the car. So I was just like, okay, I'll figure this out tomorrow. And the next day, I'm like, this is not gonna work. If I can't go to hotels, like, what the heck am I gonna do? And my father and I had a similar thought. Basically, I'm like, okay, tent. I'm gonna get a tent. What else can you do? I have no idea. I have no idea what else you can do because you don't know in advance what room's going to cause you trouble. You might not know until you've been in the room for an hour. Either way, can't do it. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. Absolutely. Think about that. I had to buy a tent. So the next day, I went to work and I think I was looking online. I went early because it was crack of dawn. I was in my car. Anyway, so I went to work early and I was looking up all these different things. Like, where am I going to get this tent? Like, I don't know. What are you going to get? And so I got the biggest tent I could find, which wasn't that big, but is enough that I can mostly stand up in the center. And I got one of those double high blow up mattresses. I'm like, I don't know. This is an emergency. This is what you do in an emergency. You come up with a crazy plan, and that was my crazy plan. It was the only one that worked. And I literally put a tent in the yard for like 6 weeks. It was ridiculous. And I remember that first night, it was so cold. And it was like 40, below 40 or something. I don't even know. But I remember having to get my dad to go in and bring comforters out to me because I couldn't go in. And for more than seconds, it just wasn't enough for me to get what I needed. So he brought me all these comforters outside. So I had to put one under me because, it's cold. And, then 1,000 over me and all these different things to stay warm. And I would say, thank God it was really, really cold because when you have a histamine problem, if you are having some kind of issue, cold is really, really helpful. And I had, I'd eaten something somewhere along the line that was a huge problem. And it was freezing outside. I had a tank top on and my heart was going so fast and I was so hot. It was just, I must have been bright red. I don't even know. And I had a huge handful of ice that I'd run and grabbed. And I holding this ice to me and it's just melting because it was so hot. And you just you just have to ride these things out. There's not much you can do. You drink cold water, you do cold thing, you wash whatever it is. There's only so much you can do. So I remember I was just your heart's going crazy. You're trying not to panic because you feel like you're dying, and maybe you are. And I remember I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna start walking. So I just walked up and down the street at midnight in the freezing cold in a tank top, and I was boiling. And I thought walking kept me from going crazy. It's just ridiculous, Anyway, so you just kind of roll with the punches, and whatever it is that's happening, you just deal with it. And I think I was really, really lucky that it was so cold. If it had been hot, I would not have done very well. Anyway, finally, somewhere along the line, we figured out that my friend's mother's beach house was new enough that I could tolerate it, but old enough that some of the chemicals from a brand new house, there's something called off-gassing. If you buy a mattress, all these chemicals are coming off it. I can't get near a brand new mattress for a year. It's gonna have to sit somewhere for a year away from me. I can't be near it. Anyway, so this house was new enough that it didn't have then they hadn't had pets or anything there. It was just a beach house. They rented it out. So I could be in it, but old enough that there weren't weird gases and stuff to worry about. The only thing I had to worry about was, money, because who has a whole bunch of extra money sitting around to just go rent a nice fancy pants beach house? Who does that? Not me. And the only problem I really had there was that it was a gas stove, and I didn't do all that, so I had to open all the windows anytime I cooked anything on there. Fortunately, I didn't do that much cooking all the time. It was like I would do a big chunk of cooking, and then I would just eat things out of the microwave, so that was not a problem. But I think, there was something happening where I had problems with air filters, and I had used one, and I think there's something where maybe some air filters have coconut in them or something like that, but there was something in the air filter that I couldn't tolerate, and I didn't know. I thought it was making it better, and so I had to worry with that. But yeah. And yeah, so I was really fortunate that I had just, had a safe place I could go. And the funny thing was that, there's a lot of extra money involved in crazy stuff like this. And part of the time I got help from the insurance company who was paying for the water mitigation thing. I won't go into all of that, but I'm still mad about that. They made some very unwise choices and made it more expensive than it needed to be. But they helped for part of that time. And the other part, I just don't have a spare $1,000 every month to go and rent out a beach house. Who does? And yeah, I did a lot of praying about that, and I made it. Actually, this is so ridiculous. If you're Christian, it doesn't seem as ridiculous, maybe, but it's still ridiculous. I'm like, well, I don't have a spare $1,000, so I'm just gonna trust that God's gonna take care of it. And I very oddly decided to just not even look at my bank account. I don't even know. I realize how crazy that is. But I'm like, there's nothing I can do. So it's just going to have to work out. And for some reason, I always had a spare $1,000. And I never had a spare $1,000. But I always had it. I was always there. And I didn't really look. But every now and then, I'd just go see what's happening. And way later, after I was able to go back in buildings and so forth, I looked and I couldn't find where this money was. It was just there. It didn't make any sense. Anyway, so I highly recommend praying. Anyway, so there was that. But I would say that I should, other than, foods and crazy supplies and whatnot everywhere, and buildings and construction material and whatever, also stress is just so terrible. And, I remember I had a tenant who was trying to take me to court for something. I had zero control over this problem. And one, I think, problem might have been completely fake, but, anyway. And I remember it was just so bad. I don't think I even slept the night before I went there. And I didn't bring an attorney with me. I just did the best I could. And, up all night, and just your histamine just go crazy. I couldn't eat. The best thing you can do, other than taking a shower and all the things, if you've got a histamine problem, if it's that kind of histamine thing though, just don't eat. You just don't eat for a little while. You just let your body deal with it, and then maybe a little oatmeal or whatever it is, but you just don't eat. And get through the rocky moment. Drink the cold water and all the things. And anyway, so yeah, that was exciting. And yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. So stress, you've got to figure out how you're going to de-stress. And that's kind of a huge joke, because that's a really critical factor for helping your body to heal from things, because it's so inflamed. Everything is a disaster. And I don't even know how you tell anybody, oh, you just have to de-stress, when you can't get rid of the things that are stressors. And I did a lot of praying then too. And I will say that was very helpful. Because there's nothing else you can do. You've done all the things you can possibly do. So, I definitely spent a lot of time with that. And I think you find that when things are very, very stressful and it's out of your control, and, you can worry, you have to worry about the things that are happening because you have no choice, right? But you can also kind of let some of it go to a degree and like give it to God. That's no joke. You pray over it, you let it go, and you're like, I don't know. And not look at that bank account for that money that's not there for sure. And you just let it go to the degree you can. And I would find that, things were going really well. Um, I would have more histamine space. I remember I started dating a man who I was very happy. He was so de-stressing for me. It was really funny. I could actually eat more crazy foods with him that I couldn't normally eat at all. Actually, I started dating him, and I ate food from restaurants for the first time in like a year and a half. Let's see what happens. I don't know. I felt really awkward about it, and I didn't want it to be a huge burden for him. So part of it is I just was really trying for him. And, but I was just so much less stressed and I was so happy with him that it like gave me a little space. And I was actually able to eat some things. It was just ridiculous. I don't understand it. But, yeah, so I actually, and then I got really excited about it because if you go from eating nothing but like basically 10 exact foods that you very carefully prepared, you brought 2 restaurants, you bring your own food, you might bring your own water, like, sorry, your water might kill me. Yeah, I can't even have your water, so sorry. And I should add, this is really important. You should not feel like you cannot bring your own food to a restaurant when you're going with people. I mean, don't go to a restaurant alone and, and bring your own food, but if your whole family is going to a restaurant or your friends are going to a restaurant and you want to go, you can do that. Just tell them. They are going to understand. And if they don't, I've never come across people who didn't understand when I explained it. And first of all, first of all, I can say it first of all. I got one of those emergency bracelet things. I actually got 2 because I can't stand wearing gold and silver together. So I got one that's silver, one that's gold. And you can put stuff on there. And I sent it to a site where I put all this data. So if you ever like, sorry, I'm allergic to your hospital, I can't get near the hospital. You're going to need to like pitch a tent in the front of the hospital, and also there can't be any pesticides there. So you can't give me any of your food. Talk to my mother; she'll know what to do. I've written it all down. So it's so ridiculous. It's just saying. But I would point to this and be like, I can't eat your food. I can't drink your water. It's all poison to me. I'm so sorry. And then I would bring in a glass container all the things that I prepared, and I would make sure, heat up before I left. I would make sure early on that I would eat within 20 minutes of heating it up because it just got worse. Early was so bad I couldn't do more of that. And later I could do a little more space, but 20 minutes for sure. I'd be like, I would consider my food poison after 20 minutes. So I was really careful about it, but bringing my container and I was fine. No one ever really gave me trouble, So I may have just been lucky. Maybe I was saying things in a way that made sense, but I was always really nice about it. I don't know. I live in Virginia, so people are nice in Virginia. I have no idea. But anyway, there's a lot that you can do. And you shouldn't feel burdened about it. But I was thinking about this, and this is really one of the reasons I was kind of willing to talk about this, is because I kept seeing people online. They're trying to live like everybody else. Like, you're not going to be able to do what other people are doing. You just have to recognize that. And I think I told one person, you should think of yourself like a supermodel. They're not eating the food that other people are eating. They're not living their lives like everybody else. You're going to do these super special things so you can be super amazing, and you shouldn't even try to do what other people are doing. Bring your own food, whatever. If somebody's got a problem with this, that's nuts. They need to lump it. If your family or friends don't understand that you cannot do something, that's ridiculous. So anyway, but I think people who are reasonable and rational will understand that. But just don't have these expectations. You cannot do it. And that's okay. You have to do what's going to work for you. And you can make it so it's incredibly convenient. As long as you have a microwave, you will be fine. I have a big what's it called? A cooler. And, I just put my food in there. And if I have to go somewhere, I put ice or whatever it is, and I put it in the microwave. Whatever I have to do, I have it there. I have an emergency bag that has soap that I can use in it. Um, Also, I just switched toothpaste. I forgot about that. And deodorant. That's a whole other thing. Um, but anyway, I can tell you more of those things maybe another time. But you just don't even bother. Don't even try. You do what you're going to do. And maybe let's say you're a mother and you've got 4 children and a husband. You cook their dinner, but your stuff's already ready to go. I would take all of my food and all my little separate packages for the whole day, and I set it up for a whole day in one big bag, and it was just ready to go. It was not really even inconvenient, almost at all. It's easy. So you make their food, unless you're trying to try a new recipe, make them taste it. What is this? What do you need? But if you're making things you already know how to do, it's not a problem. You make their food for them and you eat together. It's nothing. It's nothing. Don't let it be a problem. I know you're going to miss those foods, but frankly, it's so unpleasant. It's so painful. It's so miserable to eat those foods and be around whatever those things are that are a problem for you, that it's not even worth it. You find that it's such a deterrent that it's not really even that tempting, And I recognize I'm a little bit different than some people. I can eat the exact same thing over and over again for the most part, and it's fine. I now that I can eat other things, I definitely have cravings, and I definitely make stupid choices like today, which is why I'm drinking this milk, and normally I don't drink milk. But this weird oxalate thing, apparently calcium helps counteract it. I don't fully understand all the oxalate stuff, but I can give you a sense of so you can understand what the problem would be. So if you went, number one, and you put it in like a clear cup, and you hold it up to light, it's going to look like shards of glass, or like flat layers of kosher salt, or snowflakes, and it's shards of oxalate, you're so irritated. You might feel like you have a UTI and go to the bathroom every 5 seconds. You're so irritated, but you might not actually have one. It's just you're so full of oxalates from whatever you've eaten that has the stuff in it, so it's going to create the oxalates, or it's liberated things, and whatever it is. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point is, you're full of oxalates, and it's like shards of glass that has made it so irritated. And anyway, so it could be something like watermelon. So I love watermelon, and now I can't have watermelon. I will have to run to the bathroom. Number one, like all day long, maybe a day and a half, like into the night, and you're just desperate. You have to go to the bathroom. And I stupidly drank some coffee I don't normally drink today, and I'm hoping this milk will counteract it. Because it did the other day when I realized the problem I was having. I was trying to figure out if I had a UTI or not, because it's little at-home testings, and I didn't have it. I'm like, okay, so this is a histamine problem. You try to figure out, you're investigating all these things along the way. Anyway, so I didn't have one, so like, okay, clearly it's a histamine problem. Like, what do I do? And I just came across something online, and it was talking about calcium. I'm like, well, I'll just try some milk and see what happens. And it was dramatically better. But then there's the offsetting. You really shouldn't have dairy. But like half and half is fine for the most part, and heavy cream is sort of fine. But certain butters and things are like fine-ish. But milk is like a big no-no. And so milk like 2 or 3 times a day for days on end. And I've been really fortunate that obviously I'm so much better than I can tolerate it, but long term it's probably not a great plan. So, but whatever it is, something is irritated, and I just have to let it calm down. And water, you can't just drink any old water. Bottled water is incredibly dangerous. The worst one, and I don't understand. I'm sorry, Dasani. I can't drink Dasani. I don't know what the problem is. There's something, probably from the filter. And for a while, I could only have Brita filters, Brita water filtered water, and not the ones that are like the filter as you go. It's just the regular drip kind. And they tell me they didn't change it, but I know they did because I could have the other one just fine and the old version is just fine. And then they have a new one that came out. And they're like, oh, I swear it's the same. Like, no, it's not. I was literally like, I had a terrible problem with that. And it's like, no, your filter is not the same. Um, so then I was just stuck with tap water, which is not a good plan. It gives you terrible indigestion, all these various things. It's bad for you, whatever, all the chemicals in there. And whatever else. But I finally found one bottled water that I can do pretty well, and you want to do it in glass, not in plastic. Aqua Panna, it's the Italian one. I can do that pretty well. San Pellegrino, the sparkling one, you get again in glass. Because if you have any water in plastic, it's absorbing in plastic. So you're drinking plastic, and that's for you. If you have histamine problems, it's very dangerous. So you don't want to do that. Anyway, so I've been able to do that pretty well. I just can't do the San Pellegrino very often. I can do it, but I will feel it. There's something in there that's not ideal, but it's fine. If you have nothing, you're fine. So anyway, there are all these crazy things that can go on, but basically you should have a plan that's going to work for you. It takes time to figure what your safe foods are. Look at those lists that you're going to find online and give it time because your body has to calm down. And you might keep losing foods even still, but you give it a little time and you can sort it out. And I for the most part can do basic stuff, and it's fine. I have trouble. I really need to get coffee back up again, but I really love it, so don't really want to. I might just tolerate it. But you just have to figure out what's going to work, and you give it a lot of time. Some things won't be a problem for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden you have a problem with it. So you give yourself space, and you make sure you always have access to a bathroom or whatever you need. Like, you just figure out what you need to have available, figure out how you can make your spaces safe for you, and keep your expectations for yourself, what you can do, pretty low. Just don't create hurdles that you can't achieve. It's fine. It's going to be absolutely fine. As long as you get it, situated in a way that's going to work for you, and you just keep your expectations for what you can do. It's perfectly easy to do. The panic will make it worse. And early on, when you don't have any clue what you can tolerate, it's just terrifying, and it's hard to deal with, and you can't plan to be sick all the time. And you can't plan for stress. You don't always have choice about that. So, you just do what you can do, and be gentle with yourself in all the ways that you can. And you think about it, I can now eat a lot of foods. I'm wearing makeup again. I have my own makeup brand, and I can tolerate it. And I can use a lot of the regular removers and things, and I can use certain lotions. I think I use the Aveeno, the really dried damaged one. I use Aveeno. It's fine. I couldn't do that before. I can do so many things that I couldn't do before, and you just have to give your body a chance to calm down. And I think it's really important also to recognize that doctors don't always know everything, and they call it practicing medicine for a reason. And any doctor who's going to tell you that something is all in your head when it's clearly not doesn't know. They don't want to tell you they don't know, or maybe they don't even know that they don't know. Doctors are great at memorizing very specific things, and they are not usually very good at doing anything unusual. And that's fine. Some people are great at it though, and then you've got to figure out who those people are, and hopefully they take insurance. And then anyway, you just have to figure out all these little pieces, a little bit over time, and you have to give your body a chance to calm down and have a plan. I have a big freezer now. It's full of little frozen packages of food. I can just take things where I need. I have, everywhere I go, there's a microwave. I think I even put a microwave in my trunk once so I could take it with me wherever I was going. I've been able to stay in some hotels now. I mean, it's just so much better. So I think you should expect that over time you are going to get better. You just need to stop trying to do normal things that other people are doing and accept that you need to be special. Just like that sewer model, you're going to have to be special and do what's going to work for you and your special needs for the time being. Yeah, so I think that's probably all I really want to talk about now. I didn't want to talk about half of that, but yeah, I think you just need to be gentle with yourself and keep your expectations to what's going to work for you and stop trying to do what everybody else is doing. It's not going to happen. So just make it work for you, and don't lose hope over it, because you'd be surprised how much you can tolerate and how much you can figure things out on your own, and it just takes time. So I do a lot of praying. That's the best thing you could do. Do a lot of praying, take a lot of showers, drink a lot of cold water, and just ride it out. And be careful about taking medications, because I don't think medications are going to cure most of us. We have these underlying problems. I mean, some are, because people have these different problems. Some people have like, what's it called? Like parasites and things that cause problems and whatever. Like, you got to figure out which version of the thing that you have. And if you have to take medication to cure yourself of something, then you do that. But I mean, you should not be trying to just simply medicate yourself for the rest of your life. You want to figure out what the problem is, because if you can figure out what the problem is, you can address that problem. And then if it's food, it's food. If it's a medication and food, that's what you do. But you just really careful about just taking stuff. Like, I think if I didn't know what was going on with me, I would probably be on a heart medication at this point, because I have spent more than one night in an emergency room. I had a really bad breakup, and I spent 3 days just getting violently ill. It was so stressful for me. And then every night for like a couple months, I just ran out of space again. It was so hard on me, and that stress will get you. You just have to give yourself space. So I don't know, I think I'm just rambling at this point, but you just have to give yourself space to figure it out. Give yourself space and time to figure out what works for you, and do that. And anyway, I'm just going to stop rambling, because I don't know what else to say. I have no plan. When I edit this, I can't ever deal with looking at this again. So if there's anything wrong with it, it is what it is. But, there are a lot of places you can go to get help. There are a lot of groups that you can go to. We're all trying to help each other, and you can get a lot of really good advice. I'm sure a lot of bad advice too, but a lot of really good advice. And just have hope about it. It is going to be okay. It is definitely going to be okay. You just need to figure out what's going to work for your life. Anyway, so now I'm just repeating. But good luck, and join some kind of support group, and you'll be okay.